Now, what do you think about Atlantis and Tartaria?
I mean, I think that there are, issues of our past that we've covered up. And Atlantis is that. I mean, there are some, you know, issues of electrical energy that was there for hundreds of years beforehand. There's a lot of information that we've kind of buried and covered up, and I think we've got to really recover that. And I think one of the things that we're going to find to answer that question is, I mean, I think that there's going to be production companies that are going to rise up in the post-Nesara timeframe. We need to, like, honestly look through all of the records that we have available to us and answer those questions. And I think moviegoers are not going to go and watch stupid movies like Avatar. We're going to be watching movies, and we're going to be making movies about what really happened to the JFK killing. What is a dumb? What really happened in World War One? Why did we end a war of World War One on 11 a.m. at 11th month on the 11th day? All Cabal references. Why does 9/11 occur in that way? All Cabal kinds of ideas. I mean, guys, we need to spend time in looking at that. So when we say, what's Tartaria, what's Atlantis? Hey, I want to see real research. Sorry, messing that one up. Real research upon that conversation. So right now we're talking rumors, so we can guess about it. But until we really get into the Library of Congress and those real heavy records and those Cabal records, and really spend time and let research just go and open it up and go, hey, listen, we're going to find some of that stuff out, and we really need to look at it and let the American public kind of, debate some of that stuff.
I really feel like our history has been modified, and it wouldn't surprise me if we had amazing, powerful technologies back in, let's say, the 1800s.
I think we have had technologies. We've covered them up. I'm going to do a very unpopular conversation here because you're kind of leaning toward this, but but I will say this: when we think about things like med beds, very common, conversation. Listen, I'm an audiologist by trade, and I am also a musician, so I spend a lot of time on frequency-based conversations, and I see people talking about, technologies, and I'm also a huge sci-fi fan. Okay, so when I hear people say that a med bed is going to regrow limbs, I'm going, no, I don't see it. I mean, frankly, that didn't even happen in Star Trek 300 or 400 years in the future. And it's going to, like, fix and turn you back. And people are arguing whether it's going to turn you back 20 years, no, 30 years, no, 20 years. You're going to live to 100, or you're going to live to 300 years. Or I'm like going, first off, you're just making stuff up you don't have a clue about. Now, when we talk about that, there's a difference between taking a cell, just a normal cell, and having badly written DNA in there that has a mutated DNA, and wiping the DNA, wiping the bad, mutations off of it, and then flushing that through and letting that cell regrow in a right kind of way. You go, well, you're talking about regrowing, tissues. No, I'm not talking about that. What I believe we're going to start seeing is when we kind of bring the frequencies back in line, and you're not just talking about, we see people talking about frequencies, and what they're saying is a fundamental frequency. And there's fundamental frequencies and there's harmonic resonances. When you bring those resonances online, what you can do is have an amazing ability. One of the things that the church, for instance, has really lost is having real harmonies. When men harmonize with one another, there's a power that you just can't imagine. That's why people, like, go into a spiritual state when they hear the harmonies of not saying against women or anything. I'm just talking about when men come together in that way. It's a powerful, powerful thing. And it's because there is a spirit connection from your body, your soul, and your spirit. And when you start lining that stuff up, you can line yourself up and make your body line up to that. And I'm an example of that. I walked out of a hospital when there were 13 separate diagnoses, 40 pages of what the hell is wrong with this guy. And I walked out of the hospital out of an ICU in 3 days. You go, I mean, when you go look at it, you go, there is no absolute reason. 100 physicians were looking in on this guy and had no answers. So here's the thing. I want to purport to you this idea of this med bed. Now, let's just say we had med beds. What if you had med beds that would fix all of your issues, like you regrow your limbs? And, what would people do if they didn't have to worry about dying or didn't have to worry about that stuff? Well, I'm not trying to support the medical industry, okay? But I'm going to also say people would be really reckless if they believed in it, like the sarcophagus idea of the Stargate series kind of thing. What would happen is they would just go off and get themselves nearly killed and then just go get healed up. And we're talking about, like every game has out there, you have a med bed or you put med packs or all these other little things on there. And I'm going, why is that? It gets us into a really dangerous area where we cheapen life and we would begin to worship the creation instead of worshiping the creator. And when we do that, that becomes a very dangerous territory. Now, I believe that medbed types of things, they're going to be, I think I just said this just a little bit ago. I think we can eradicate cancer. That's a sickness we don't have to live with, because that cell's doing some bad stuff. I think we can kill off MS. I think that we can kill off diabetes. And some of this is about what we eat. I mean, we've been eating a whole bunch of really cruddy things. Why do you think the white hats have been taking out a whole bunch of the food plants? Is because that has some gross stuff in there. So we need to take that out of there. And I've been trying to eat better. I've already lost like 33 pounds with that too. But it's about eating better and eating right. And I found a lot of the stuff that was really bad at me, gone. So again, I don't want to get into, too deep in those kinds of things, because I do believe in a type of creation points that we can do, or killing off of the cells structure. But neural cells, hearing cells or neural cells, and some of these other things, you're not going to regrow a limb or grow 100, live to 100 years old. I think there are some technologies out there that can make differences. And by the way, one of the things that happens in the Nesara stuff is we got 6,000 patents that are out there. As an audiologist and as a person who wears hearing aids, I know in my mind that there are technologies that the CIA, FBI, and NSA have co-opted that are inside of technologies that can help a person hear near normal levels. Get kind of abilities through technology stuff. Bluetooth, really amazing kind of Bluetooth technologies that we can do. And I think we're focused on the wrong stuff. There's some really cool things out there. And those technologies, what we have to do, part of the humanitarian stuff that is released through the St. Germain Fund and the Rodriguez Fund, and there's about 100 different funds, is to get people back and doing some of those things. I want to see, that engineer who created a technology in the hearing aid realm to come in and work for a hearing aid manufacturer, for instance, and create that technology and take it to new levels. I want to see, technologies that can make a difference in how we fix eyes. I want to see, technologies how we would deal with cars and carbon emissions and other things that really are bad. Instead of the global climate crisis BS, how about let's focus on the things that, real good energy that lasts a long time. Let's focus on those kinds of things. And I think we've gotten off topic. And I frankly know we've gotten off topic, because there is these things called dis and misinformation. Misinformation is when we have black hats purposefully putting in wrong information. Disinformation is when truthers have a piece of information, they put it out there and they might say, well, we're going to have this thing happen by this date. And they got it, but it was kind of giving some slight information wrong. It was put out there in a correct kind of pattern, but it didn't come correct. So and then it gets people like all fluttery with it too. I want to say we're in the middle of a war. In World War II, right before we invaded D-Day the Normandy coast, the Americans, the Allies, took all of the German spies and turned every one of them into a double agent. And they gave misinformation and disinformation left and right. And it was depending upon what they wanted to do. So every time they looked at the landings in Normandy, they kept saying, no, we're still coming to Calais. So look over here, don't look over here. So this is false flag kind of stuff. This is disinformation kind of things. So we've got a lot of amazing things that are happening. But I think that we've spent too much time looking at, these crazy technologies that even science fiction doesn't even want to deal with. But we haven't spent enough time on some of the cooler technologies that could be out there that we haven't even thought of. So I just would say, in essence, and people go, Scott, you need to open your mind. And I'm like, you have no idea how open my mind is, because I'm thinking of technologies that no one wants to talk about, because it's not the sexy stuff. Calm down. When we see some of those technologies open up, we're going to see some really cool things, but it's not exactly what you think of in that way.